Do these girls want to build together? I don't know.
I don't know. But
Categorically, no. Are women just asking to be lied to?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Heard it here first.
Yeah.
Heard it here first.
Yeah.
Heard it here first.
Don't come for me.
When he goes into that venue with you as an attractive woman, other guys going to look at you and it reminds him, oh, I'm with a desirable woman.
Yeah, of course.
I'm with the kind of woman that, given the chance, another guy might try and take her from me.
Makes you feel like the man, doesn't it, right?
Yeah, but also the masculine is naturally competitive. So guys, welcome back to another episode on my channel. I'm sitting in this spot, which means I've got a great conversation lined up for you today. You know, on this channel, we love to talk about all things dating, relationships, and seeing what we can do to attract the kind of person we want. So without further ado, please welcome Sabrina to the show. Sabrina, welcome.
Hello, thank you for having me on.
Thank you for being here. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm real good, thank you.
Yeah.
Not feeling the cold weather, but other than that, really good.
I know, she brought her warm sweater today,
I
feeling
did.
very cozy.
Exactly that. I was
we
going
love
with the
that.
coziness.
Has to be done, has to be done. Well, I always love to jump straight in.
Yeah.
So first tell us your age or your age range, asking a lady her age.
It's terrible.
And something a guy should know about you if he was going to take you on a date.
Okay, so I'm 32, and something that they should know about me. I like a good atmosphere and a cozy restaurant, maybe.
Okay, so you like to be wined and dined.
I do, indeed.
Okay,
Yeah.
so would you accept a coffee date from a guy initially? Would you be like, no, just wouldn't do that? Or is
I
this
mean,
just
it's
a
not my
preference?
favorite, but sometimes, you know, like if we've got busy schedules and stuff, like it's okay to just quickly have that and like feel the vibe.
Yeah.
I mean, the
100%.
only difference with that, I'd say I probably wouldn't like make a lot of effort in myself for a coffee date, but I think that's the difference. If I was going for dinner, then naturally I'd, you know, pick a great outfit, do a little thing to my hair. So
Yeah, that makes sense. You're not gonna wear a black dress
To a coffee
to
date.
Starbucks, are you?
Yeah,
You're gonna do
exactly.
that.
Yeah.
Has to be done. Do a lot of guys lead with like the fancy dinner, you know, especially in the city? Do guys lead with that, or what's been your experience?
For sure. I do find that. Yeah. It's
Okay.
rare that I'll get asked on a coffee date. But yeah, I'll definitely say the wining and dining is
Okay.
is the
Well,
lead.
maybe you should ask for a coffee date because that's what makes you stand out. Because she's so used to wine and dine. So do you know what I mean? How do you feel about like a guy coming to pick you up, or are you happy to meet there? Like, how do you feel about that?
I do like to be offered that, and I think that is chivalrous. But I think for a first date, it's a good idea for safety and security as well
Very true.
to meet there. And then the whole thing is, like I have been on a date where somebody has picked me up and dropped me off, and I didn't enjoy it, and then I'm sat with you and I have to go home.
Very
Like,
true.
yeah. So I think the first time it is nice to meet there, have a feel. If you obviously like if it's successful, then yeah, following that I do like to be picked up and dropped off. I don't want to have to worry about
I feel most women do. I feel like if you offer a woman to be picked up, most are going to say yes.
Yeah, for sure. Like I don't have to worry about parking, driving, maybe if I'm having a drink or something, or finding a car park, or and all these things. Like,
do you ever feel that like going somewhere fancy and nice for dinner? Do you ever feel, you know how you're like, oh, if I know the vibe's not right, but he's picked me up and he's going to drop me off. Now I have to sit in the car with him.
Yeah.
Do you not feel that way? Like if you know that through like the starter and you're like, I already know this vibe isn't the one, but now I have to sit through the main, potentially dessert and drinks. Do you not feel that on a dinner date as well?
I think you can kind of pick a vibe up at the beginning. Yeah. It depends. Like you can either just catch it. It depends on the person on, you know, at the beginning, or you could just be talking then and naturally you start to see a little bit more of the person. Then you start thinking, oh, okay, like I'm not really getting the vibe here. Or you'll notice one thing and then you'll be like, oh, that might just be one thing. And then you might see three things later and be like, okay, this is not it.
Okay. So what are the things that you kind of look for that you're like, nah, this isn't it for me?
I don't like rudeness to start off. Like that's one thing I cannot stand. I think that's awful.
Yeah.
What else? If they complain about their ex, I think for me personally, like a big red flag is if you like, oh, I've got a crazy ex or something like that. I think it's a bit forward to say on a date anyway. And even if they are, that's maybe something you should later on find out. And I don't know, I guess the person that says their ex is crazy tends to be the crazy one. So
interesting. Do you think that reads the same if a girl's like, oh, my ex was like a narcissist and stuff like that?
Yes and no, because I do, yes and no. But I think it's not a first date thing, not a first date conversation. And I think I don't think it looks great to put down your ex because at one point you
were
chose
with them.
them. Yeah. Do
You
know
were with them
what I'm
for 2-3 years.
saying?
What do you
Yeah. And I
mean?
mean, obviously later on as you get to know somebody, like all
Yeah.
these things come out later in the open, but you're in a safe and like comfortable
Of
space,
course.
kind of thing. So I think that's okay then. But yeah, I guess it's the same as a woman saying, oh, like my ex was a narcissist.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
yeah.
What's one thing you look for now that you didn't look for 10 years ago in a guy?
I guess chivalry is definitely a big thing now, because I think if you start that way and you're polite and you're a gentleman, then I kind of feel like that's who you are. I think if I saw a bit of rudeness in the past and I've ignored that, that's definitely come to bite me in the bum later.
Okay.
Confidence, yeah, for sure. And that they're secure in themselves. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
I want somebody to add to me, not take away. So
When you say take away, what would they take away?
I don't know. If you're not like necessarily like content or full in yourself, then whether that's emotionally or physically or something, you're going to be at a place where you're taking or you're looking for fulfillment in somebody else. Whereas I think you should have like two wholes and then come together.
Yeah, I hear that.
Yeah.
You talked about chivalry. You said that was something you wanted to talk about. So what do you want to bring to conversation in that regard?
Just courtship. I think there's a mixture of it nowadays. It's not it's died out, and then but in the same breath, I think people are starting to see things on the internet and probably realizing that's a way forward. I think it's dating with intention. To me, courtship.
Are girls seeing that on the internet or guys?
Both, I think. I think the younger generation, I've definitely noticed like and I mean this in with the males probably and females as well, is that they date more with intention. Whereas I think we had gone through an era of situationships and hookup culture.
You think that's more prevalent with the young generation now? I
So
think
what
more
I've noticed,
situationships.
yeah, I guess maybe I'm just looking at I'm probably going off like my little sister and her group of friends and stuff like that. So that like not maybe general. Yeah. So I think like to me, courtship translate dating with intention. Like you have an intention as opposed to just this whole hookup culture, which doesn't make sense to me.
I get that. So
Yeah.
what does courting today look like to you?
Just being mindful. Like for me, courtship is, feeling an effort. So for me personally, that would be somebody like planning a date, picking the restaurant, asking if I need to get picked up, or, finding a car park for me, and, taking into consideration maybe my dietary requirements or, bringing flowers on the first date or the second date, and just maybe even asking like what things I like. Is there anything that maybe I'd like to do, and putting that on a list of dates. And yeah, it's just making me feel special. Yeah. And I think if you do that, that's because you have a good intention. You wouldn't do that for somebody you didn't potentially want to see a future with.
But I guess, wouldn't that be weird for a first date for a guy to be like, I already see my future with you?
Not to be, it doesn't have to be with me, but when I say dating in with intention, is that's what you're looking for. You're not dating just to hook up. You're dating in pursuit of a long-term relationship.
Yes.
Which the whole dating process is to use a discernment and find out that, are you that person that's going to fit as my life partner? That's what it is for me personally.
Yeah, I get that. That. Yeah, I don't know if that would work anymore,
Why? What makes you say that?
Because I think men and women are both very different today. So I think courting really, and I guess I'm speaking what a lot of guys would say, courting is very much for what he would consider a lady.
Yeah.
But in terms of what the definition of being a lady is, I'd say that's not like the mainstream culture anymore.
I agree.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do agree. Yeah.
So in that sense, because I think because we've raised with, okay, treating women as equal.
Yeah.
So you can't treat her as a lady and treat her as equal. Like you choose one or the other.
Yeah.
And so I think for a lot of guys, they're like, well, a lot of women want to be treated like they're an equal. They say they want to be treated the same.
Yeah.
Which is fair enough.
Yeah.
But then there's pros and cons to everything, right?
Of course,
there's nothing all good or all bad.
Yeah.
And the con of being treated as equal is you don't get the special lady treatment that is reserved for ladies. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, absolutely.
So I guess, how do you feel about him being treated equal in that respect in terms to dating? Like,
I think it's each to their own. For me, it's personally it's not my preference. And I think that would just carry on strengthening the whole equal side, and you probably can't really how to explain, like if somebody treats me like a lady, naturally that's going to bring the lady out in me. I'm going to be softer, I'm going to be more feminine in my approach, I'm going to be switched off. You know, something so simple like working out whether I have to drive there or where I'm going to park my car. I faff with things like that. I have, like, trying to work out, like, that's the worst thing for me. I hate parking.
Right.
But if you've done that for me and you figured that out for me straight away, I've eased into the day. I've come in relaxed and I'm going to be my best self because I'm not having to think about anything. And I'm just there fully present with you. Yeah.
Yeah, I completely hear that.
Yeah.
I think it sounds like a lot of guys will hear that as, oh, it's my job to make sure you show up as your best self. Well, the only person's responsibility for that is you. Do you know what I mean? Because if a guy was like, well, you know, if you make sure that you know, treat me a certain way, you do these things for me, then I will be the best guy for you. But if you don't, then I won't be.
Yeah.
Surely you just be like, well, either you're that guy or you're not, bro.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get what you mean. But I think it's different for every individual. It's like you're gonna reciprocate energy, like, and how people present themselves. So if you're coming towards me and you're asking me 101 questions and you want me to plan the date and pick somewhere to eat, then for me, I feel like I'd go into my masculine trying to be organized, and I'm not an organized person. So then I don't feel I'll be as relaxed. And I think that's with anything, not just with dating. Like if I have a friend that's sat here speaking negatively and complaining, you're going to naturally draw that, perhaps like lower the mood and lower that energy
Lower
of
the
mine.
frequency.
Yeah, lower the frequency. So
That's
I think
fair.
it's same with relationships and how people approach. Like whether we do it intentionally or not, like energy reciprocates to what's being presented.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So let's say, for example, like a guy, let's say there's a guy who is like, okay, he asks you, is like, let's meet for food, but he doesn't get you any flowers, he doesn't pick you up, he doesn't suggest that. He's just like, you know, here's where we're going to meet. We meet at this time.
Yeah.
And then the guy who does pick you up, make sure you gets there okay, asks about your food dietary requirements, gets you flowers, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
How would you show up differently in that date compared to the first one?
I guess with that one, I would be a lot more appreciative and warm because I'm like, wow, like you've tried to make me feel special. There's an intent there and I can feel his intent. So naturally I'd want to show some sort of gratitude, whether that's, I don't know, being a bit more bubbly because I'm grateful. Same as if, like, I don't know, my parents or anyone was to give me a gift, I'm naturally going to be like, oh, like excited, right? So yeah.
Whereas you wouldn't be grateful with the other guy? Not
necessarily I wouldn't be grateful. I just think that would pull more of an energy out of me. Yeah, I think, you know, you're still going to turn up as your best self as anyone would on any kind of date, right? But if somebody makes a bit of a fuss, naturally, of course, I could, like anyone, you're going to get excited, aren't you? Yeah.
Yeah,
I guess it's the same if you went on a date with a woman and you were in a nice restaurant, you've made the effort of picking a nice restaurant or whatever, and she turns up not well presented, doesn't, you know, like probably draws attention that she's not well presented. Like, I don't know, maybe he's got a tracksuit on, holes in her trainers or something like that.
Yeah, I've had that before.
How's your attention how are you going to be with her compared to somebody that's picked a nice dress, done her nails, done her hair, put on a nice perfume, like, which is essentially making an effort for you? How would you feel different towards both of them? Like, what would that make you feel?
I think you're right. I think the impression would be different. The impression definitely would be different. I think that, but also I guess it would be one of those things where I would question or ask, oh, is she the kind of woman who likes being in these spaces? So if I've booked like a nice restaurant, I've got a nice shirt on and all of this stuff, and she kind of rocks up in a tracksuit and stuff, I'm like, okay, maybe this isn't the circles that she kind of moves in. So I'll be like, okay, this is showing me an element of her that I didn't know about. Yeah. Right. Because maybe she's more of the hiking outdoorsy girl as opposed to the fancy dinner kind of girl, right? But I would say that if she did show up in like a tracksuits and stuff, which I've had before, the impression would give me that it would give a certain impression that if she's not made an effort, and I've already sorted everything out, like all you have to do is show up. You didn't plan the day, nothing. All you had to do is show up. I'd still like be my, you know,
you'd be yourself.
I'd still be myself, right? I'd still be my best self.
Yeah, of course.
But I think I'll probably think she's either not interested, or I'm like, if she's not gonna, if it doesn't seem like she wants to make an effort for a date, all she had to do is show up. It just seems like, so she can't reciprocate that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that's why I asked you, what does the reciprocation look like? Like, how
Mm.
different does that look?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't take her out again, to be fair.
There you go. This is where
Not because she's a bad person.
no,
she's
but
not,
it's just, and that's fine, and that's your taste, and you're absolutely allowed to have that. If that's not a preference or a style that you enjoy in a woman, that's absolutely fine. Out of politeness, we don't have to settle for that. So for me, I do, like, I think this is where it's nice to try and make an effort and understand somebody. So beforehand, that's why I appreciate the questions, like, what kind of food do you like? Then you end up picking an atmosphere that you're both equally comfortable, because I wouldn't want someone to go somewhere that's not for them either, because that's, you're not being true. Like, and I think that's where it is good to try and make that impression on both parts. Like, and like I said, if say you pick somewhere nice, for me personally, I'll go have a scroll, I'll go look at that place, look what the vibe is, like what other people are dressed up like, and that's how I'd present myself.
Yeah, of course. What do you think is the hardest thing about dating for women is today? You think they're struggling with the most?
I think because of social media and the dating apps, and the fact there's a hookup culture, dating is oversaturated. We don't have the longevity as what we had before, because everything's just a quick swipe. So I feel like people don't have the patience to go below the surface. Like, there's plenty of people that are quite accessible because of dating apps and social media, where maybe you don't have to put so much of an effort to. So I do feel like
for the guys or for the girls?
Both, I think. Both. I think it equals to both. And I think, it's probably hard. I feel it's a bit harder to find a more meaningful relationship in this era, in this society, because we have less attention, things are more accessible. And, I definitely feel if you get upset with something in a relationship, or, the lead up to a relationship, you're like, well, I'll just find somebody else. And that's what I think the problem with dating now is.
Yeah. Do you think a lot of, how much of social media do you think plays into a woman's expectations of how courting should look like?
I'll be honest, at the moment, I think there is some things that are around, and it's good and it's informative, like why, for everyone, where you should be able to raise your standards. I think sometimes it leans too much to the extreme, where you're leaning too much to one thing that probably, yes, it's nice to have nice things and like have courtship, but it might mean you might accept somebody that isn't very nice. Or, example, like you just asked me about a coffee date. A lot of things would lean towards to say, oh, you can't accept a coffee date. That's, not good enough. It doesn't show an effort. Whereas sometimes people's busy schedules, like, you never know, that might be great. And then the second date might be absolutely amazing because you've had that minute to understand each other.
Yeah.
So I do think sometimes there is a bit of a push on unrealistic expectations. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with having high standards, and you will find somebody that's able to meet that, but be a bit grounded as well, I think. Yeah.
I'll be honest, I know more guys doing coffee dates first for that exact reason, because it's almost like to see, is she, because the thing is, I guess if you're open to getting to know a guy, whether it's a coffee or dinner, really wouldn't matter that much. But if it's, a lot of guys can use that to see if she's the kind of girl who's actually caring about who he is potentially, and then they'll take her out for a nice dinner.
Yeah.
Or it's like, if she's like, oh, I'm not going to do a coffee date, a lot of guys just go, okay, she comes across as quite entitled, so I'm not going to go there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll be honest, like sometimes when I've let things seep into my brain, I've behaved like that. And actually, sometimes something quick as a coffee date isn't intense. It's a nice little quick, let me get to know you.
Yeah.
Whereas, if you're sat at a dinner and let's say you don't vibe, you have to sit there for the whole time.
That's
and then
so
what can I do?
Yeah.
I'm stuck
I always think that for women, especially for a woman to be with another man that you don't
Yeah.
want to be with, because 9 times out of 10, I feel like he will, if he finds you attractive, he's more likely to enjoy the day, unless a woman is really crass or really disrespectful or something. But he's more likely to enjoy the day if you're just a normal woman.
Yeah.
But for a girl, it's like, if you're really not vibing, is it worth sitting through the chicken salad and
exactly.
sticky toffee pudding? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
I would want to get out there personally.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I want to get out. That's so interesting.
Yeah.
What's one thing you would ask all guys today if you could?
That's an interesting question. I guess what makes I don't know how to phrase it, like is it just a certain time, like where something just switches on where you decide you want to be in a relationship? Is there a reason that makes a guy want to be in a relationship, or is it just a case of being ready, or is it a case of finding the right person that makes them want to be in a relationship? Like, how does that work for a guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, timing is very important.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very rare for a guy to not be for him to be single and not ready for a relationship.
Right.
Then he meets a girl and that makes him go, I want to be in a relationship now.
Right. Okay.
Because a lot of the time, if a guy's not ready for a relationship, but he looks at a woman, is like, oh, she's relationship material. When I'm ready, she's definitely the kind of woman I'd want to be with.
Yeah.
He would not pursue it with her until he's ready.
Yeah.
Right? Which is when girls will experience like a guy comes back.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, sometimes a guy's coming back, if there was like a situationship and they were just having fun, sometimes he's coming back to see if he can have some more fun. Or sometimes he's coming back because he's ready for something serious and he's always thought this is the kind of woman.
Yeah.
But timing is generally quite important.
Yeah, that is definitely something I've noticed. Like, I feel for a guy, they have like certain ticks that they want to do in their life and maybe don't want a distraction or want to get to a certain place in life before they feel like they can entertain a relationship. So, I have noticed that.
Yeah, I think you can tell me what you think as well, but I think a lot of men feel that the standards women ask for in a man is a lot higher than what it used to be.
Yeah.
And so the things that a lot of women ask for, it takes men a lot longer to acquire and get to that point where he is that kind of man. So he's like, well, if I can't be the kind of man I want to be in a relationship, I'm going to wait until I am and then pursue a relationship. And I think a lot of girls are like, but we can build together, or I don't know, you tell me. I mean, do girls want to build together? I don't know.
I don't know.
Categorically,
no. Like, I'm doing my own thing, and then like you can add to that. I think, do you know, before, I don't know, like this era, obviously that was the way of the world back in the day. You know, a woman would be at home, she'd be the housewife looking after the kids, while the man was like the predominant provider, and you know, he'd look after a woman. And then, you know, we've transitioned into this 50-50 equality and stuff like that, which I'm like, each their own, but I see it from a different perspective. I always felt like women, which is great to have your independence, you know, like some people weren't able to do and ended up being stuck in things that they shouldn't have been in because they had no financial independence. But I do feel it was a way to make like two people pay taxes in one household. But anyway, that's another thing.
Very true.
So we've transgressed to where it's 50-50 now, and you kind of expect your partner to bring the same thing, and it's like two people doing that in one household or whatever. And I think sometimes that translates to like having a roommate. It feels different. Whereas I think that was the way, and then we've moved on from that, and then we're now perhaps leaning back towards that, which I don't think's bad, but maybe, as I said, on social media, it puts such a high bar for that it comes across unrealistic.
I think, if I'm going to be honest, I think most households need 2 incomes nowadays. Most need 2. Obviously women have equality, as they should. You know, they're earning, and actually women under the age of 30 out earn their male counterparts now. I think since 2015. It's the first time it's ever happened in history.
Wow.
So women are doing very well. And so I think a lot of guys, especially in the younger generation, they're like, well, why should I be the provider when you're earning anyway? Like, we can go 50-50. But then if a woman's like, no, I'm the kind of woman that I like a guy to take on the majority of the financial burden of the relationship, because it's a lot harder to do that today. If a guy gets to that point, a lot of the time being in a relationship with him then comes with things that a lot of women don't necessarily want. Which is like, okay, maybe he wants to quote unquote exercise options. Or maybe, I don't know, he does expect, okay, well, you know, when I'm home, I expect you to prioritize us and being with me over your work or something. Do you know what I mean? Have you ever experienced that?
No, I mean, for me, I think I'd have a different approach. I definitely appreciate a generous man. And I know the the territory that comes with that obviously is working and stuff like that. But I think that's where it comes down to having a maturity and just like understanding that is life, whether they were generous or not, or you were 50-50. Ideally, you'd both be out working and it would be the same kind of time frame that you're not really seeing each other, whether that's I'm at home or not. So I definitely appreciate that. And then I think it's just having your own like having your own life. Like I think when you start to get annoyed that somebody isn't at home a lot, or they're not giving you as much time, or perhaps traveling a lot because of work, I think if you're not fulfilling your own life, that's when you can sit around and go, oh, I'm bored, what are they doing? Like, you know, so I think it does depend on the individual and what growth you do in yourself. And then to the point of exercising in other places, broke, rich, generous, or whatever, I think people do that anyway. So it's
Do you think a lot of guys can do that?
Yep.
Really?
Yeah. I mean,
That
it's
they have
definitely
the
something
options to.
I've seen it in all walks of life. I really have. Like, that's come from my job in hospitality. I see a lot of men, you know, corporate men will check in, and sometimes with their points from the hotel, they'll come and stay and bring their family, but that's not the same woman that I saw during the week. I've seen that several times.
Yeah. I guess that's different though, because those are quite successful men.
No, yeah, but I've even seen it in, okay, let's say not successful people. I don't know, maybe they're intimidated by the woman. They feel better going off elsewhere. I do.
Intimidated by which woman?
If, like, I've noticed if they've got a successful woman, or I don't know, a very, very attractive woman, sometimes I've seen men will go and cheat. I don't know, maybe it makes them feel better, but I don't think there really has to be a reason. I just think if an opportunity is presented, people take it.
Do you think women are the same?
Women were emotionally attached to men. I think, yeah, I'm not saying that women don't cheat and they don't do things like that, but in order to do something, you know, like that, you have to be emotionally checked out from that person.
Yeah, I agree.
Whereas I think with a man, it's a need, not necessarily. There isn't. You can have a loving wife at home who you'll protect and provide.
Yes.
But something else might tickle your fancy, and that's it. Doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean you love your wife any less. That's just it. And that's the difference I see. And I think if people don't realise that, it's a bit naive. I'm not saying every man does that, and that's like, you know, you get men that absolutely won't do that. But from what I've seen, that's what I've witnessed a lot everywhere.
Yeah. I think that desire, like you said, is independent of how much he's into his woman or wife, and whether he exercises that or not, and it's consensual. That's you know, that's for every person to define for themselves.
Yeah.
Do you think that's a difficult reality for a lot of women to understand?
Oh, for sure. I think people really get hung up on that. I'm not saying like I'd welcome it or warrant it. I just think if you're stupid enough to get caught, that's on you. But I wouldn't trouble myself worrying about that, because I'd see like loyalty comes in different forms. Like if loyalty to me is, example, if we had children and you're a good dad and you're a good husband, and you know you're generous with me, I have an emotional safe space with you, and
he's present.
Yeah, present. And I'm generally, if I wasn't aware of that, and just say generally in my life, I'm happy as can be. That's loyalty to me, and a man isn't going to give that kind of loyalty to everybody.
Very true. Yeah. In fact, only one at a time he'd ever do that.
Of course,
for.
And that's a bit, for me, that's what a loyalty from a man is, and that to me trumps anything, you know. So
it's interesting, because I think a lot of guys will be nodding their heads, being like they agree, especially if they're the kind of guy who's able to provide for a woman and give her that kind of life, etc. Why do you think you understand that so well, or you've got to that place where you can see it with this kind of lens that maybe a lot of other women maybe struggle to?
I guess life experience, obviously, naturally that plays a part. I'm very curious of people. I'm very interested in people, their mannerisms, their patterns, and you know, I'm a big people watcher, and I've always been in industries where I'm constantly around people in, like I said, all sorts of walks of life. So I definitely have picked up on patterns of people, and then, you know, similarly, like learning stuff, you know, you see certain things on social media and YouTube and hearing different perspectives. I'm very open to different perspectives, and I think if I've heard a perspective, I'll then go and maybe go collect my own data by just watching people and seeing
100%.
seeing what happens. And then I'm like, do you know what, that is actually true. I.e., for example, infidelity, naturally when I was young, and again, I'm not warranted and I wouldn't welcome it, but it was a big thing, and it'd be like, oh, this is awful, this is horrific, like, but actually it's so common, like it's not specific to, like, you know, myself or anyone else. It's just something I've seen a lot. And then when you weigh up the scale of things, it's like, well, like, do you know, does that make sense?
100%. Yeah. It's you know, if we take like athletes, like especially like NBA players or
Yeah.
like footballers and stuff, when they're on the road, a lot of their wives know.
Yes, they do.
Like they know.
Yeah.
They're like, I know he's out there doing his thing, but I'm the one with the ring. I'm the one who has his
This is it.
name. I'm the one with the kids.
Yeah.
Like I have the title.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Let me ask you this then. Would you rather, I've only asked a couple of women this and I've had different responses. I'm curious what you would think.
Yeah.
Let's say you meet a guy, the kind of man that you respect, you're like, this kind of man I see myself with, you know, successful, ambitious, present for you, etc. He's like, Sabrina, I want to be with you. I see my life with you. I'll be there for you, etc. Would you rather that he openly communicates at the beginning of the relationship that he may step out time to time physically, he may have physical things elsewhere at times, or would you rather he doesn't say it, but he might does it throughout the relationship, but he just lies to you about it?
Yeah, I probably prefer the lie. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so surprised.
Do you know why I say this?
The other women said that too. And I'm like, what?
Because it's the disrespect. And I know that sounds silly. The act on its own is completely disrespectful. But if you're brave enough to come to my face and sit and say, this is what I'm going to, I could not cope with that. I know that sounds daft, but it's in my face and you're bringing it to my face. And I'm now having to visualize that and think about that. And then it makes me think about my own conscience and my own self-worth, like that I'm giving the okay, like being very aware. Does that make sense? For me, if I had a partner and he was committing infidelity, be smart enough and not messy enough for that to come to my doorstep. If it came to me and I found out, that's a different story.
Sure.
I wouldn't, it's not going to go down lightly. Would I maybe break a marriage? I don't know. There'd be so many factors I'd have to add up.
Yes.
But if you were silly enough to get caught or cause some sort of embarrassment for me, whether that's a public thing or, you know, people in my family are aware, then that's a whole different thing. Like for me, I'm big on respect. Like I'm not stupid. Everyone's human, you know, when we're not perfect, that's fine. But just show me a level of respect. If you're going to openly say to my face that I'm going to...
so shocked,
Yeah, because, you know, we're all a bit delusional. I still want to think that I'm...
That's what she said too.
That I'm enough. And, you know, like, why would you want anybody else? Like, I don't want to know about that. What I don't know doesn't hurt.
Do you know, it's so mad. So, because I asked my mentor, her name's Chengi. She's been on this channel before. And I asked her to ask someone else as well. And I was so surprised that the two other women that I asked said the same thing.
Yeah. That
they would rather he lies about it, does it, and she's none the wiser than he just says, hey, you know, this is how it's going to be. And one of the other women, they also use that phrase like, yeah, we're a bit delusional. We want you to play into the fantasy. Yeah. So then are women just asking to be lied to?
Yeah. I think so, yeah.
Heard it here first.
Yeah.
Heard it here first. Heard it here first.
Don't come for me. I think so. Wow. Because, like I said, I've come to that place in life where not everything is what it seems and the world definitely is not black and white. But I'd like in my head and in my reality to be how I want to be delusional about it. And that's absolutely fine. Don't burst my bubble and just let me live there.
Do you think a lot of women are like that?
Yeah, like, I mean, you've just said about athletes, NBA wives and stars.
But they know,
they know, but they don't sit there and openly be like, oh, who is she? No. That will be the respect thing as well. That's why you'll see a lot of them in the media. They'll kick off, oh my God, blah, 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 because it's been addressed publicly. So publicly you have to deal with it. And then that's why they end up getting back together or whatever. But realistically, they know, and they're not saying they don't care, but it's a public embarrassment.
But when I say, they know, I mean, with their husbands, it's like, even if it's not disclosed, they kind of like, if this happens, I know it comes with the territory. Exactly.
And I think you've just got to have a conversation with yourself and be like, can I deal with that or not? I think definitely with like rappers, sport players, that comes with the territory. They're on the road all the
Artists,
time.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I just think if you're traveling and if you're in that kind of public media, come on, people are going to throw yourselves at you. Like, how many times are you going to keep whacking them off, you know?
Wow.
Yeah.
Because it's interesting. I think guys will be like, I want to know. If you're loving this episode and these kinds of conversations, then I want to give you something. We recently launched the Kits Angels community. This is a sisterhood for women who are tired of what the dating scene has given them and are ready to take their love lives to the next level. It's a space for you as a woman to not be alone in your journey to love, where we learn, talk, and share our experiences as part of a strong sisterhood, with some leadership and guidance from yours truly, of course. Not to mention never before seen videos from me on how I've led dozens of women to meeting great men. And so as a thank you for watching this episode, I'm giving you a month's membership completely complimentary on me. Just click the Kits Angels link below, and when you join the group, message me the code phrase Angels Podcast and I will pay for your membership. Now back to the episode.
Would they? Do you think? But do you think a man could handle that? Do you think men, if, okay, let's flip exactly everything we've just discussed and say that a man had a woman that was, I don't know, an artist or whatever, and he assumed that the territory of that she potentially might commit infidelity. Do you think a man could deal with that? Could they swallow that?
I don't think he would be in a committed relationship with her, no.
Yeah.
I think he would be like, okay, cool. Well, I'm going to do what I do, but I'm probably not taking you seriously.
Yeah. And see, for me, maybe I'd see the difference for that is because with a man, they bring like other things, you know, like the protection, the providing in for me, in my case anyway. So I'd have more than one thing to weigh up and be like,
yes, exactly.
Oh, if I call this a day, like, is this going to be detrimental to the rest of my life or whatever? Yeah. So I think, do you think that plays a part?
Yeah, I think because men and women look for different things, and I'm not saying it's just this now, but if we take marriage for example, the deal of marriage way back in the day was that, okay, as the man, I will provide for you and I will protect you, and in exchange you will be loyal to me, so I know that the children are mine.
Oh wow,
was
that the I didn't know that.
That was the deal. Right?
Okay.
Because obviously back then women couldn't work, etc., but also the whole thing of men being physically stronger as well to protect and fight off, etc. So that was the deal of I provide and protect, in exchange you are loyal to me and
bring up the
consistent sexual accesses actually. So if a guy's gonna, so I think a lot of guys see the commitment, the reason I'm committing is that because you are loyal to me. Like, if you're not loyal to me physically, what am I getting from this relationship? I think a lot of guys see that. Equally, like you said, if you're with a certain kind of guy, even if he's not maybe physically exclusive, you might still be getting his emotional capacity, his frame, lifestyle. You know, you can still get a lot of that. Whereas I think guys are primarily, you know, not saying he's not choosing for who she is.
No, of course, but
But I think like the tangible values, like the tangible things that quote unquote bring into the table. I think that's like the primary tangible thing he will get into a relationship, is that physical loyalty. Which is why I think if it was the other way around, I don't think a guy would be like, okay, cool, this is like a friends of benefit situation where we're doing our thing, but this isn't a serious relationship. Wow.
And I think that's why we're in that culture where there's less commitment, because if we're, you know, like if women and men are 50-50, it doesn't bring that scale. It like balances the scale. So it doesn't really give room for a man to be a provider. And, you know, a woman, I'm not saying like women are going to go out and cheat, but they're comfortable in this hookup and situation, like situationship culture that like they don't want to commit either. Whereas if you have like a generous or providing a protective man, that's going to lean towards a woman to be committed. And I think that's where marriage and, you know, long-term relationships come from. Whereas when we're not doing that, the scales are they're too balanced, if that makes sense.
So do you think that a lot of women today actually don't want to commit?
I think there's a mixture. I think there's definitely a mixture. I think there's some that definitely want to commit. I don't think marriage is such a goal now, if you like, for lack of a better word, as what it used to be. You know, before we used to tick the boxes, didn't we? Let's do this, do that. I don't think it is. I think there's definitely like a lot of independence, and I don't think that's a bad thing either. Like I will say, us as women, or both genders, but us as women, we can do a lot. You know, we can work, we can do this, we can do a lot of things for ourselves, which I think in society now we're learning that maybe that was a bit oppressed before, but we're you know, realizing that, you know, we can do a lot of different things. So it doesn't always seem as a necessity. Like you said, women are now earning the same as their counterpart now, so we might not be looking for that protection or providing or, you know, things like that.
It's interesting, and tell what you think. I think a lot of women I've spoken to, even if they're doing well for themselves, if they're going to get into a relationship with a man, they still want him to be able to bring that provider aspect to the relationship, even though they might be earning.
Oh, absolutely.
What's your experience with
I
that?
think so. Like for me personally, it's just because then I can respect you. It doesn't matter what I'm earning. I will see you as a roommate. Otherwise, like, what makes you any different to one of my friends being here and us both filling up the fridge and
Well,
doing
you're
that?
sleeping
It just,
together. That's why
it
you have
doesn't,
intimacy, closeness.
but then that's not. I'm not gonna feel that way. I'm gonna feel like you're my friend. Whereas if I think you're providing that protective energy or that and being a provider, you may, it will make me switch off. I'm not in my masculine. I'm not thinking about a lot of things. I think for me, like me personally, what I'd look for in a relationship is that space to just switch off. Like I don't have to think about anything. I don't have to work anything out. I don't have to think, oh, well, how am I gonna put dinner on the table tonight? Like if you bring that to me, then that's going to bring out like the softest version of me and the most playful and, feminine version, because I don't have a care in the world. And I think that's when you'll see the best of a woman.
Yeah, I honestly, I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with you. I think in order for the feminine to come out, the masculine needs to provide a safe space to do that, right? I completely agree. I want to touch on one thing you said about respect. Because I agree. I do think that, not all, but I do think a lot of women struggle to respect a man who she feels is not on her economic level if he's not bringing that provider mentality. Why do you think that is? What do you think that's about?
I don't know. Perhaps maybe I'll just be straight to the point. Probably think I'm better than you. If I'm doing this, I feel better than you. Which you would with your, like with a friend, you wouldn't necessarily think that you're better than somebody, but you just think I'm. What do I need you for? Like I don't know. Yeah, does that make sense?
It does make sense. Yeah. So I guess my follow-up question would be: do women want to be with a guy who they feel is better than them?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely do. I'd feel more trusting in your presence and more trusting in your leadership skills and in your decision making, because you're better than me in so many different ways. Like physically, I'm going to feel safer around you if you're physically like stronger than me naturally. If I feel like intelligence wise, I'm going to trust your decisions. I know I can come to you as a mentor and be like, this and this, like, what do I do? How do I help? Because it's nice to have that, as we're growing older, you kind of went to your parents and your teachers for that. But as we go older in life, they're obviously, parents are getting old, you're not in school anymore. It's nice to find that family like unit in someone. And usually for me, I feel that should be a partner. So I want to have that physical and mental security, and then obviously financial security as well. Like, for me, I'd like to go work or do what I want to carry, what I'm doing, because I want to, not because I have to. And I'm allowed to just work at my own device and do whatever, and whatever creative thing I want to go and explore, I'm able to do. If we have children, that I'd be able to be a bit more present with them,
Yeah, of course. I appreciate you being open and honest with that, because I think this is like such an undertone that happens throughout situations and dating dynamics that is one of those things we never officially allude to.
Yeah.
And I think this is why sometimes some guys can get resentful. Yeah. Because they hear about, we're equal, treat me the same. But then, excuse me, ultimately what they see plays out is not that.
Exactly. And it never,
do you know what I mean?
For me, from what I've seen, I'll feel like if a woman is equal, so if she's, and it doesn't have to necessarily just be financially, you can have a person that's very wealthy, but it doesn't mean they're generous, like you can have you could have a partner where, say, if you are on equal wages, but you're generous in what you do in terms of, opening the door, lightening the load, like, do you want me to pick dinner up? What would you like? With different things, like generosity can come in different ways where it's just making your life easier. It doesn't have to be financially. But I do find that if, a woman is with their counterpart who isn't generous and necessarily a provider or a protector, you see that they don't have the respect for a man, even if it might initially start off as that.
It's so true.
You'll start to see that they just don't care. Like I've seen it so many times. The respect isn't there. That's when a woman, I believe, might have a wandering eye. Yeah. If you're you're in an opportunity with the way of the world is now. People are not scared to approach people, and you could be somewhere and people are quite forward. There's no respect for relationships now. And you might have that provider energy come. Like, you're telling me if you're with a guy that isn't doing that for you, and somebody comes over and sweeps you off your feet, it's going to attract your attention, or at least like maybe make you think, you know.
Yeah.
Whereas if you've got
Reevaluate.
whereas if you've got a partner that you respect as a man, and he is a man, and he's like, you know, like you want to feel like you need him, like, you know.
Yeah.
And then
So would your would your advice general to guys be to look to date a woman who is lower than your level?
absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I've got brothers, and I say exactly the same to them, exactly the same to them, and with it works. It just works because women like to be impressed. That's just the way of the thing is. So if you've got a woman that's lower than you, it's going to be easier to impress her than somebody that's on the same level. How can you impress somebody that's doing exactly the same thing that you're doing?
And she'll be more grateful for it.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
That's one of the major ways men feel loved, is appreciation.
Appreciation, yeah, of course. And it, you know, like I said, things about working out a restaurant. Like, I hate Googling stuff. I hate working out things. You've just something so small, and that's, you don't have to be wealthy to do that. It's just the thoughtfulness. And I'm like, oh wow, like you've took into consideration what I like, and you've picked that for me. I'm going to be, oh, thank you for doing that. You know, you're going to see that naturally come out of me.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So what would you say to, so let's say you have a guy, so you said you've got brothers, right? So let's say you've got your brothers, they're doing well for themselves, etc. What would you say to the women who are like, let's say they're looking at your brothers, they're like, I want to attract that kind of guy, but he's just intimidated by my success. What would you say to those women?
I think you don't, well, if somebody comes across that they're intimidated by your success, and that's going to be a problem from the get, like just wipe that off, because that's an internal thing. If somebody is intimidated by that, that's something to do with them, and that's not to do with you. And I think that's in any situation. So you can't change somebody's internal thoughts. I always just say, kind of carry on doing what you're doing, and perhaps look for somebody that maybe is more successful than you. I think that dynamic definitely works better. But you will get some people that are not intimidated by that. They couldn't care. But that's because they've done the work in themselves, or they're so content in themselves that an outside factor like that doesn't make a difference. Yeah.
So with that then, if a woman is really successful, where the majority, she's more successful than 95% of people, does that mean that she can't, and she shouldn't even consider a guy who's not on her level, since most of them won't be?
No, like I said, I think you just need to date a generous man. Like, a generous man can be, you know, even if, okay, let's just say you had a house husband, but it's just somebody like, you come home and, I don't know, he's arranged a bubble bath for you, or, you know, got all your favorite treats, or, you know, it might be a woman's time of the month and they have like a pamper package, or, you know, just make their life easier, or just be a sounding board, or, you know, something like that. It doesn't necessarily have to.
Do you know what's so funny? So the things that, if you say to a woman, okay, you're going to have a house husband, how would you like him to show up for you?
Yeah.
Like those examples, that is exactly how men want women to show up for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just so funny, because it's like, I think a lot of the time women think, oh, what do guys want, or what makes a guy want to commit or have something, etc. Or, you know, I don't want to do these things. But it's like, okay, if you took the typical masculine position of the relationship, where you're providing the frame, and, you know, you're bearing the majority of the responsibility for the relationship, and let's say you had a stay-at-home husband, how do you want him to show up for you?
Yeah.
Says all these things, and I'm like, that's exactly the guy you want. That's exactly how he wants you to show up.
Yeah, you want him to be your peace, right? Like, just want to create like a peace and a safe space. Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
And I think another thing I would touch on, a successful woman, I feel like anyone in the workplace, you definitely have your masculine on. You know, like, I have it if I'm into work, but leave it at work. You know, I wouldn't come home and talk about work unless it was something I needed help on, to have a to consult, or just to be able to talk out aloud. But I would leave that there, and then come back at home and just be in my femininity. And I think that's a thing that women I'd see might be beneficial, is to learn to switch that off and leave that there for the workplace, and then, you know, be more in your feminine when you get home, because that's naturally going to draw, even if he is a house husband, you're going to bring that man out by being soft and being, you know, feminine. Whereas if you go in like, oh, like, you know, you're going to create the opposite, aren't you?
Yeah, 100%. And I completely agree. So how do you, because, you know, you're a business owner, you know, director, etc., you know, so you've got a business that you run where you do have to be organized, you're telling people what to do, etc. How do you tap into the other side, that feminine side of you, especially for the kind of guy that you want, leaving that at work? Because I think that's something that a lot of women maybe struggle to do. So how do you do that for yourself?
Well, for sure, like, I don't really it's not really something I bring up unless it's asked. I don't talk about my work.
Yeah.
I've got my friends for that, and like my business associates and things like that.
Yeah.
And I'll just do my practices like when I'm at home, like I'm doing, like my Pilates, my appearance, that definitely helps me be in my femininity, because I love like, doing my hair, doing my makeup. That's me to the core, no matter what I do, even in my workplace, that's what I'm like. So that
Yeah.
definitely for me personally draws that out. Being creative, and just I have a soft environment at home. Everything's very soft. I don't think about work. I don't, unless I have to, like, because I don't have a specific workplace, I won't necessarily do my work at home. I'll get up and I'll go to a coffee shop, or I'll do something. I'll keep that space there. And being around my friends as well, naturally that's going to bring out, like, I've got very feminine friends. So I think just doing things that make you feel feminine practices, like,
Yeah.
like I love flowers. I've got flowers all over my house. Even if somebody
Nice.
doesn't buy it for me, that's something I buy on a weekly basis, because they're just pretty to look at. So that keeps me soft.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
What's one thing you think men don't understand about women today?
The little gestures. I think that is, I think there is a resentment in this era at the moment. And I think the tiniest little things go over a lot of men's heads, like just opening a door, flowers, opening a car door, asking the little details, like the devil's in the details. And it doesn't have to be about doing big grand gestures. It's the little things. Like, we are quite easily pleased in that way. If we feel like you've put thought into us, it makes us giddy, and it makes us feel like a like a little girl again. So, and I think men, that goes over their head a lot, like, oh, we can't do that, they want equal treatment. I've seen men like, some of them don't even want to open a door, and it's like, it's really not that deep. Just, it's not that hard. It's a simple thing. Just do it, and you'll see a woman be like, oh, thank you.
Yeah.
It's
interesting, because I completely get that. I think it's funny you say women are easy to please. A lot of guys would beg to differ.
Okay, yeah.
I think they feel that when a guy gets into a relationship, he's like, because I really like how you show up for me, how we've been dating, etc. So this is what I like. That's why I'm in it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of guys have expressed that their girlfriend wants them to do more.
Yeah.
Once they're in the relationship, and even throughout the relationship. So let's say, for example, like, okay, let's say he's the kind of guy in the beginning that, okay, he was taking her dates and sending her flowers, once every couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Right. And he's doing that, right? Which most guys don't do. And then now it's like, they've been doing that for a year, and now she's like, but he doesn't open the door for me. Like, but can you start opening the door for me? And then he's like, in his head, and I think this is why this conversation is really helpful.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, it's not I don't mind doing it, but I've been doing all these things consistently, and now you have an issue that I'm not doing this. Why?
Yeah.
Because you never asked from that from the beginning.
Yeah.
That was never a thing that, and it's not that you can never express, hey, I'd really appreciate if this is something I really enjoy, and I'd really love it if you did that, right? Sometimes it's in the delivery.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think a lot of guys this is where it comes from, sometimes guys say this. It's like, even if you give a woman what she wants, it's not enough.
Yeah, I do get that.
So I guess how, you say you have brothers, how would you advise them to navigate that with a woman if they're feeling, well, I feel like she's asking for more, and it's like, but if what I was doing wasn't good enough in the beginning, why are you with me? I think guys ask that question.
Yeah, I think maybe men are more like creature of habits, whereas with women probably it's because we're growing, or most people, you're allowed growth, you're allowed to have a growth and be like, I've got an acquired taste for this now. And it's like you said, it's the delivery. I think if you ask nicely, it's not gonna cut so much. And I think maybe with men, it's letting that little bit of ego go and just be like, why wouldn't you want to do it? Like, if that was a new person and a new person had said that to you, me personally, and you attracted that person, you wouldn't think twice about doing it.
I hear that.
Yeah.
I think because for guys, it feels like, so you don't appreciate the things that I've consistently done for you up until this point.
Yeah. And I think, again, that's a delivery thing. I think sometimes maybe women need to communicate that appreciation. I definitely notice in men, like, simple, just show them appreciation. You get a lot for that. Like, just do that.
You really do, man.
Yeah. And I think, again, I think it's down to delivery. I think a woman just needs to be like, look, I really love that you've been doing this and that. But I quite like it if you were to do this, that would make me feel that extra special. It is delivery, isn't it? I think if somebody communicated it in that way, like, I'm grateful for what you're doing, I am starting to like these things and they make me feel a little bit special, would you mind doing it? And then it's up to the individuals, because I think in the same breath you can outgrow relationships, and that's okay. Like, if you raise your standards, if you like, or you like certain things, or you feel like you've progressed needs that aren't being met, then if you can't solve that between you two, then just like walk away, isn't it?
Yeah.
It depends how, it's not everything's that deep, but I
Yeah.
think it's okay, because you get like people that have, dated or got married younger, and as they're getting older, I don't know, they might be seeing like their friends are going out on dates and stuff, and they might not have had that because of, I don't know, having a family younger, but it doesn't mean that's not something they'd want now. And why not better to try it and ask for the person that you're with and be like, oh, actually, we've never done this, but I'd like to do it. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's just the delivery of the communication, I guess.
Yeah. Is there anything that you've seen or heard of guys asking for something new in a relationship that he didn't ask for in the beginning from women? Or women?
Not particularly. I don't know. I can't say that I have.
See, girls, you are enough for us, okay?
Yeah.
Whatever you do from again, you're enough for us. No, I'm teasing. I'm teasing. I don't know. I'm asking because
I'm trying to think. I mean, it depends though on the personality. I mean, there's probably people that are difficult and will constantly be coming up with changes, or I need you to do this, just so that you've not got a mark to meet. But I think that's a certain criteria of a guy.
Yeah.
But no, I will be honest. I think men are creature of habit. They're pretty.
Yeah.
Like, they're good to go. Like, they're happy as how things.
Very simple, boy.
Yeah.
Doesn't take a lot to make us happy.
Yeah, and I think when I say women are simple, I mean it's the little things that can make us happy. Yes, we're constantly wanting to be impressed, but that's just our nature, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think you would do that at the beginning, and if I was a new person, you'd be trying to impress me. So why not 5-10 years later into our relationship or marriage, are you still not giving me that same?
Yeah, I think what it means is, if he's doing the same thing, you're not going to be impressed by it 5 years down the line than you were 5 dates down the line. But if he's been consistent with that, I think a lot of guys go, okay, this is the effort I'm making to make you feel special.
Yeah.
And then when you ask for more, it's like, so is what I'm doing not enough? Why is it not enough anymore? If I do this now, are you going to be, because I still have to do what I've been doing now, not added with this.
Yeah.
And then if I do that in 5 years' time, do I have to add something else? I think this is what goes through guys' heads, and they're like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get that. I think again, it just comes from a woman's natural nature to want to be impressed. Again, it just comes to communication. I think it definitely has to be given that there is an appreciation for everything that's been done.
Yeah, maybe that's the pivot.
I feel it's the flip side on a man to a woman. Like, we're in a, like, for me, I think if you're a wife or a partner to your partner, you have to try and impress them as well, and be that happiness to them, because we're in a place where people get paid to smile at your husband. They go to Tesco's, the woman is paid to sit and smile and be nice to you, point. So I have to trump that. So me smiling is only going to last so long, but I'm going to, not necessarily to keep you interested, but to keep that love and to keep that, that happiness, and that make you feel like, oh, you're special, I'm attracted to you. Like, we have to up that as well. Yeah. Because I think one thing I think on women, and sometimes I don't agree with us doing that, is that as we get comfortable, we don't make that effort with our appearance for a man anymore. Why not? If that was a stranger and you're a stranger, I'd make that effort to look extra amazing for you. But, 5 years down the line, I'm not doing that. Whereas actually, no, I should be elevating myself even more for you, for your dedication to me for 5 years. I think it works both ways.
No, I completely agree with that. And actually, it even serves the woman to do that, because when he goes to a venue, if he's like, if every time your man says to you, hey, babe, we're going out this weekend, and you bring your A game and looking good every time, when he goes into that venue with you as an attractive woman, other guys going to look at you, and it reminds him, oh, I'm with a desirable woman.
Yeah, of course.
I'm with the kind of woman that, given the chance, another guy might try and take her from me. Yeah. And then that reinforces the standard. Makes you feel
like the man, doesn't it, right?
Yeah, but also the masculine is naturally competitive.
Yes.
So it reinforces the standard that he brings to you as the woman. Yeah. So while someone might like, oh, why do I have to continue looking good for him? It's like, you're actually doing it because it serves you in the relationship.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And even for a man, like you said, you walk into a place, like, it's like, that's mine. Like, and like you said, a reminder to yourself, like, this is what I've got. Yeah. 100%.
I did a poll on this. This was about a month ago, and I'm curious. I've started to ask a lot of women this because I'm really curious. I'm curious what you think.
Yeah.
So you've got 10 men in front of you. Okay. Each of them rated 1 through 10.
Yeah.
And the rating takes into account their height, looks, intelligence, success, influence, status, confidence, right? Now, each rating has a different percentage chance of him cheating.
Okay.
So out of the 10 men, all rated 1 through 10,
Yeah.
the guy who's a 9 or 10 out of 10, 70% chance that he'll cheat. The guy who's a 7 or 8, there's a 40% chance he'll cheat.
Yeah.
The guy who's a 6 out of 10, there's a 10% chance he'll cheat. And the guys who are 5 and below, 0% chance that they'll cheat.
Yeah.
Which guy are you choosing?
And when you say like what gives their rating, is that everything accumulated for their generosity, their intelligence?
Yes.
And, okay.
So it's like what he is on paper, all of that.
So say a 10 would have all of that, and he's a 10 on all of that.
Yeah. So like the guy who's a 10, right, is like he's tall, attractive, successful, high status, confident, intelligence. So you know the things that you said, like the kind of man you'd
and he's
see
like a
yourself
good
with.
partner, like.
Yeah, he's a good man.
But yeah.
Yeah, he's a good partner.
Yeah.
Like he shows up for you in those ways.
Well, yeah, I'd pick 10. Yeah.
Even though there's 70% chance.
Yeah, because you're gonna be good in every other way. Like I could have somebody that doesn't cheat at all in the nicest possible way. They're a dummy. Like I'm sat here. There's no conversation. There's no.
So let's say that he's not that he's a dummy. So there's still I want to differentiate between the caliber of a man and the quality of a guy.
Yeah.
So I'd say the quality of the guy is his personality. So how he is with you, right? So, you know, you do have a good time together. He does have a great personality, his character.
Yeah.
The caliber of a man is what he is on paper.
Right. Okay.
Right. So we can have, that's like him being successful, influential, you know, attractive, because there are guys who are high caliber but low quality.
Yes.
So I'd say like, it pains me to say this because I love hip hop and R&B, but a lot of rappers are high caliber but low quality men.
Yes, absolutely, I agree. Yeah.
Right,
yeah,
because of how they treat women and how they are. Right.
Yeah.
But equally, you can have men who are maybe medium to low caliber, but they're very high quality men.
Yeah.
So like by societal standards,
yeah,
Martin Luther King would be considered low caliber because he didn't have a lot of asset to his name, net worth, but he was a very high quality character for what he was doing.
Yeah.
So let's say the character throughout the 1 to 10 men is consistent.
Right. Okay. Perfect.
Right.
Yeah.
So how you enjoy their company. We're just talking about the caliber he is in relation to the likelihood of him cheating.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe a little bit lower there in that case. Maybe between like a 7 and an 8.
Most women that I've asked chose that.
Yeah. Because equally, I don't. You know, there's just some people that you know. That isn't even a case of like there's temptation. That is just who you are to the core. And I don't want a promiscuous man. Do you know what I mean? What I mean is that there's temptation and it's around, and if that opportunity presents yourself and you make a mistake, but we have a great relationship or marriage, then we can work on that, fine. But I think sometimes with the extremely high caliber where people are like chucking themselves, like you're in constant temptation, and that might just be who you are. I don't equally want that. Yeah.
So no Chris Brown. No Dan Bilzerian.
No.
I don't blame you.
Yeah.
I would.
Because you got to remember, like, essentially as well, I think I always look at if you're having children with this person, like they're going to be an example. So, you know, you need to learn to behave, like be able to uphold yourself. You know.
So true.
Yeah.
Do you think it works the other way with women and their likelihood to leave?
What do you mean?
So if we were saying 1 to 10 women, based on caliber, attractive, feminine, intelligent, supportive, the things that men really highly value. So she's high caliber on paper.
Yeah.
So the women who are 9 and 10, there's a 70% chance that they'll leave. Women who are 7 and 8, there's a 40% chance that they'll leave you for another guy, right? Do you think it works the same? The more desirable a woman is, the more likely she is to leave for another man?
Potentially, I don't know. It's different. I think it would depend on the guy. Like if, you know, if you've got it good, then I guess no. But if you've not got somebody, if you feel like again, like the scales aren't balanced, and somebody comes over that is able to sweep you off your feet in terms of maybe not necessarily a better lifestyle, but just a higher caliber man, then I think maybe that's a way to turn a woman's eye. Or, you know, if they're, you know, if you've emotionally checked out. But I think for a woman, it is hard to
Yeah.
you know, I think we're quite loyal emotionally to a man, and I think we base a lot of our decisions on emotion.
Based
So
on how, yeah.
yeah.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think a lot of women are very loyal to their emotions and their
Yes.
feelings. And if their feelings is with a man, it almost doesn't matter what caliber he
It doesn't,
is.
yeah, exactly.
that's actually
Yeah.
big
So it's like
facts.
logic
Yeah.
doesn't really I think,
Yeah.
logic doesn't always be the leading decision maker. It'll be emotion. So you do see it a lot where women will be with, you know, like low caliber men, or not even low quality men, just because they've developed that emotional attachment that
Yeah.
the logic, even though logically, or if anyone was looking in screaming at you to get away, you won't, because we're loyal to a default. So,
Yeah, 100%. Do you, it's such a broad question.
Mm.
So outside of like physical abuse and outside of physical abuse or emotional abuse or like, you know, coerciveness, what percentage of people do you think break up because they feel they can do better?
I think it's more prevalent now. Like, that's more a decision maker now.
Yeah.
Because of the internet, and we have access to information, and there's more opportunities. Example, I would say for the women now, you know, before you'd be in a marriage and a man would fully take care of that, and you couldn't go out and work, and you couldn't get yourself, you know, out, whereas, you know, you can keep up now. So it's almost like keep up or do better. Otherwise, like, for me personally, you'd kind of look at like, what's the point? Yeah. I think definitely now it's that probably is a deciding factor in relationships. Now, a few years ago, maybe not, but now I think we've got more opportunities and choices. Now, 100%. And I definitely think, which I don't always think's a bad thing, but we're definitely more selfish now, like more independent and more about herself, which I don't think is a bad thing. I think you should be independent and find yourself before you get into a relationship. But I think there is aspects of the generation or this era that where people don't see the point of a relationship.
They're asking themselves, what value is this bringing to my life? Yeah. Do you think marriage is outdated then?
I personally don't. I like the idea of marriage, but I do think it is outdated. A lot of people are not bothered about marriage now. Yeah. Or see the point of it.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Last thing before we wrap up, what's one thing you think a lot of women struggle to understand about men?
I think we touched on it, that they just would like to be appreciated or feel needed, and just show a bit. They're emotional as well, and just feel a bit of gratitude. Everyone likes to feel good, and it's just, you know, maybe they're not so open with everything, but if, like anyone, if you do something nice for people, like, you want to feel that appreciation. And I think a big thing that women, it would probably like a word of advice I would give is appreciate what a man does, like even the small things, because from what I've seen, that also encourages more.
Big facts.
You know, if you do something nice for somebody and there's no gratitude for it, or even it's like you're not going to do that again, are you?
Yeah.
Like, or you're going to think twice. Yeah.
It's so true. I completely agree. Guys, that's the thing. Men want to serve the women in their life.
Yeah.
Right? The feminine submits to the masculine, but the masculine serves the feminine.
Yeah, exactly that.
And the gratitude is fuel for that service.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it does make me want to do more. Listen, Sabrina, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. Yeah. So thank you for sharing your energy with us. We appreciate you. If people want to find you and follow you and your journey, where can they find you?
I'm Miss Sabrina Dubois on Instagram. So that's Miss, then Sabrina, and then Dubois, Dubois.
Perfect. We love that. Well, guys, go show Sabrina some love. Give her a follow. Give her a like. All that good stuff. We appreciate you for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. It's been wonderful.
It's been awesome. Guys, thank you for tuning in, and I will see you in the next episode.